people? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel, people. Today we're joined by Rich from the Villa Park podcast. How's it going, Rich? You good?
I'm very well, thank you, Don. Good to be on the show, mate, and looking forward to the game tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'm looking forward to it because, listen, recently, Rich, since we've played you, bro, in our last 5 games, we've only won one. You've got 2 wins over us, and I think we've got 2 draws during that time as well. So it hasn't been, great for us, in all honesty. I remember being at the game at the Bridge when you beat us 2 seasons ago when we finished 12th. John McGinn scored a banger, if you remember that game. Mm-hmm. You guys actually got Potter sacked. I was happy about that, to be fair. And obviously last season, you beat us as well. Ollie Watkins scored. Sterling was greedy in front of goal, like what we saw against Wolves on Christmas Eve. We had Gusto getting sent off. For me, that wasn't a red card either. Obviously we came to Villa Park in the FA Cup. We beat you. One of our best performances of the season. Towards the end of the season, we nearly beat you there again as well. And then in the FA Cup, we drew last season as well at the Bridge. So overall, sort of going into this game, I am, low-key a little bit confident in comparison to last year because we've got a better coach, we've got better players, we've got a better system. We're in better form to you at the minute. I see in your last 5 games, you haven't won any games, right?
No. It's been a bit of a tough time for Villa of late, and I agree with you on all of those points, mate. We've got a decent record over recent years at Stamford Bridge, and we've got a pretty good record against Chelsea, all in all, over the last few years. But you guys are in a really good position at the moment. It seems like everything's settled at the club. Maresca's got the players on side. He's kind of confident. He knows what he's doing. He's made it clear to the players who's playing when and what's expected of them. And it's like they're not really in the headlines at the minute for any wrong reasons, and that's got to be a good thing for Chelsea. So that's what makes me more worried about facing them, because there's no controversy, there's no turmoil, and obviously I'm sure we'll get into it. The quality of the players that you have is a danger for anyone.
Yeah, 100%, bro. But from a Villa side point of view, going into the season, there was a lot of people putting Villa above Chelsea in the sort of top 4 rankings, and for me, I actually took Villa out. I said I think it's going to be a difficult season for them going into the Champions League. There's a lot of players in that team that have never experienced going in there. You're having to manage your strong in the Champions League as well as at the weekend. And it kind of feels like it's kind of taking its toll on you guys. I haven't watched every single game of yours, but I've watched some of your games back to see how you build up, to see how you play. And it's very similar to last season. I know Emery's style of play. He likes to build from the back with a 2, and then the 2 fullbacks split up forward. You've got the 2 in the midfield in the pivot. You tend to have McGinn in the sort of right half space, depending if he's left wing or not, and then Rodgers in the left half space if he's playing sort of left wing as well. But what have you thought about your season so far, bro? And what's going wrong for you at the minute?
It just seems like we haven't had every player at the kind of right level of form at the same time, and it's just been really disjointed going forward. And if you match that up with maybe we've conceded some sloppy goals, because in terms of goals conceded, we've only conceded 2 more goals in the league at this stage this season than and the same as this stage last season. So it's not as if we're crazy, in terms of conceding goals, but we've scored something like 12 fewer goals at this stage as we were at this stage last season. So you take that into account, you're losing the likes of Douglas Luiz, you're losing the likes of Moussa Diaby. Even though sort of Watkins and Duran have scored goals, the other players haven't really scored goals. So Tielemans hasn't scored, McGinn hasn't scored, Bailey hasn't scored, Rodgers has scored a couple. So it's just been a bit disjointed with us going forward. Yes, we've had individual good performances. There's been times where Morgan Rodgers has been brilliant. There's been times when Yuri Tielemans has been fantastic, but it just hasn't quite matched up. And I think Emery's trying to find a new way of playing through the lines and through midfield, because he hasn't got Luiz, because he hasn't got Diaby, and it's just taken a bit more time to settle. The Champions League side of things is strange because we've only conceded 1 goal in the Champions League so far. So it's difficult to say like that the Champions League is affecting us in the Premier League. I think it's more the fact that some of the teams have found out a bit more how to play against us, and we just haven't scored the number of goals that we did last season. And I'm hoping that that will start to be put right in the next few weeks.
Okay, so the major thing at the minute is the lack of goals. Is it just a lack of creativity, would you say, in the team at the minute? Is that what the main sort of issue is? And do you feel like more teams are kind of respecting you more now? You're having to break down more teams, would you say?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit of both. Yeah, it's a bit disjointed going forward. It's sometimes a lack of care with the final pass. Players like Morgan Rogers not quite got that finesse. Like, he's brilliant, don't get me wrong. Leon Bailey hasn't quite been at the right level of form as he has been last season. And at times we've just been a bit too away from home. We've been expecting players to do, like, we expected players like Morgan Rogers or Leon Bailey to beat three men before they're even anywhere near goal. And then at home, you're exactly right in what you're saying. Teams kind of know how Villa operate, will sit players behind the ball, much like Crystal Palace did. Wait for us to try and force it or try and play through the midfield, obviously setting a few traps and then just catch us on the break. And that's been tricky for us. And if you're 1-0 down in any game, Don, you know what it's like. It's difficult to get yourself back into it. You've got to stretch yourself. You've got to try and force your way back into the game. And then sometimes you leave gaps at the back. So it's kind of been a combination of the two.
100%, bro. And listen, I'm glad that you mentioned that about how Villa have been sort of playing on the break at the minute. And watching your recent game against Palace, I can see here, they scored a goal here from another break. You've got 3 players here, only 2 Villa players, defending. You've got, look at John McGinn trying to run back. That's Tielemans. I think that's Tielemans.
Both of them aren't the quickest either. So yeah. It's
exactly. And you had the same issue against Liverpool as well. Liverpool kept countering you when they had their corners. They scored from it as well, didn't they? The goal that they scored.
Yeah, mate. Transition. Honestly, that's been really frustrating. The fact that 2 games in a row we've conceded 2 goals from our own corners, and whatever our set piece coach is doing, I really don't know, because you can maybe accept once when you're trying to score a goal, but twice in 2 games, not let alone the number of chances we gave away against Liverpool from our own set pieces. It's disgraceful, really, in terms of a professional Premier League football club. But hopefully we'll put it right. And the strange thing is all these teams have all these elaborate free kick and corner routines, and the ones that are most effective is if you put a good ball into the box and you've got a striker or a player running and attacking it, generally you get a goal off it.
100%, bro. But talk us through your build up, right? Because this is how you tend to build up. I was watching your game against Juve. I was seeing similar sort of things here as well. So you have your centre backs, a 2 pairing there like this. Then you tend to have a pivot in the midfield. Your fullbacks go very wide, and that's something that I was going to ask if you think you're gonna sort of do that at the weekend in terms of having Dinya or Maatsen high and wide over there. Because what happens is what I've noticed is either Ramsey or McGinn's been going left wing, but they're not wingers, are they? So they tend to tuck in a lot, right? They tend to go into that left half space, and then the person that takes up that left winger position tends to be the fullback. But what I noticed is when you played Liverpool, you weren't doing that as much. Your fullback wasn't stretching the pitch because you had Salah on that side, and I think you had Diaz or Gakpo on the other side. So you had to make sure that you were a little bit more reserved. So I reckon you're probably gonna do the same thing against us. You're probably not gonna stretch your fullbacks that wide. You're probably gonna sit back in a sort of mid block like what you did against Liverpool. But what have you sort of thought about your build up, so far, bro? And how do you think that you're gonna build up in this game? And how do you think you're gonna set up as well?
Yeah, I think you're probably correct in that. What I would like to see us do, obviously at home, it's very much like this. Carlos or Torres particularly Torres will try and drive with the ball into the midfield area to try and commit one of the midfielders and then slot it into maybe a Tielemans on the half turn, or McGinn to kind of try and roll someone, or Rodgers with the ability to try and run with it, and then they will then play it either through to Olali Watkins or into the Matson or Digne to cross it in, or out to Leon Bailey to drive 1v1 against the defender. That's generally what happens. Away from home, because we've maybe operated and tried to defend a little bit deeper, we still try and play in that same manner. But the problem is that players like Morgan Rodgers or players like John McGinn are picking the ball up and being asked to do the same thing, but obviously 15 yards deeper. So then having to beat an extra man to try and get into space to try and play it to Bailey or play it to Watkins. And then those two players have way too much to do to get into position to try and score a goal. So what I would like to see us do is play that same way, but just maybe move up the pitch 10 to 15 yards, not necessarily play a high line, but just when you get the ball out, get out quick, get the midfielders off the defence's toes and push up a bit more as a unit and try and close the gaps. That's what I'd like to see us do a bit more. But I tend to think, have you right, particularly the first half. I don't think the fullbacks will attack as much, because of the threats that you have, regardless of whether it's Neto or Madueke or Sancho. You've got so many players that can play out wide. It's crazy. So we'd be stupid to go gung ho down that left, predominantly left side. Would be stupid to kind of keep pushing 100%. That. But at the same time, you've still got to give your players something to think about. And if it is an element where, yes, you're great going forwards in the wide areas, but if those players don't necessarily drop in to defend, then that's an area that Villa can exploit.
Can exploit as well, 100%, bro. And you're spot on when you say that, because if you look at all this space here, let's say you lose possession in the midfield, because for me, this game's going to be won and lost in the midfield, man. Same way it was last season when we beat you at Villa Park. Caicedo and Enzo absolutely bossed that midfield. Gallagher as well. He played in that game. We bossed that midfield, man. And you're right. Look at all that space there. If you've got Madueke, when we counter press and win the ball high there, play it to Madueke. He's got all that space. You know what I mean? You've got on that other side as well. Neto, I think, will start left wing. He's got all that space as well. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous, but at the same time, in terms of your build up, I have seen it, to be quite effective. Like the goal that you scored against Palace. Let me just bring up the screenshot here of McGinn's assist that he got. So if you have a look here, right, you beat that press that Palace had. If you want to call it a press, because they don't really press that like that, but you managed to pop it through the mid. I think it was Torres that played the ball to McGinn.
Yeah.
Now you can see, right? It's Aston Villa up against, it's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 versus 3. The rest of them here, you've beaten that press. You've broken that line. McGinn plays a simple pass through to Watkins. He scores a goal. So that's something that Chelsea need to be aware of as well, because we counter press really well. We win the ball back quite high, very well at the minute. But you can beat our press a couple of times as well, because you've got some good players. You're playing in the Prem as well. So if we're not careful with that and we're leaving McGinn with all this space, Watkins is one of the best at running in behind in the league. You know what I mean? So that's something that I am wary about as well. And just in terms of, off the ball as well, you work really hard, man. If I bring up some of these examples here from the game against Juve, you can see here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look how many players are trying to surround. I think it was Thuram that was trying to get the ball. If I bring up another example of you lot counter pressing, I think it was in the same game as well. Let's bring it up here. So, counter press 2, right? So, I think that's the same one. We'll just bring up the same one here. So, you can see here that you do like to box in, players in their own box and create opportunities like that as well. But again, that's dangerous against the Chelsea, because one thing about us in build-up, we are very good at beating the press. You know what I mean? As soon as you try to press us, like, I don't know if you watched the game against Newcastle, Palmer and Jackson were getting so much space in behind over here, right? So you've got to be careful about that as well, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you look across the Chelsea team, and there's so many dangerous players and so much risk at play. But at the same time, like you said, Villa have got good players. We didn't finish 4th in the Premier League for nothing. We've got Watkins, McGinn, now Morgan Rodgers, Leon Bailey's coming back into form. Yuri Tielemans is a fantastic midfielder. Boubacar Kamara's coming back in. So, and then you've got the options off the bench in terms of Maatsen, in terms of John Duran, in terms of Ross Barkley to settle it down as well. So there's lots of different options that can be used, but yeah, it's going to be a game where I think both teams, if there are lax passes or they do get caught out on the press, then both teams have the ability to really punish the other side. Obviously
Yeah.
Palmer, Madueke, Jackson can really punish Aston Villa if they make sloppy passes or make mistakes. But at the same time, Villa have those players as well that can really hurt Chelsea. So it's shaping up to be a really interesting game. I think both teams will count themselves as having an opportunity to get a decent result, but they all have to be at the best.
100%, bro. Who's actually been Villa's best player this season, would you say?
If you'd have said like 3 weeks ago, I'd have said Yuri Tielemans hands down. But he's kind of dropped off a little bit over the last couple of weeks. I think he's been playing with a slight injury, and maybe just in terms of having that central midfield partnership, it's not quite been as good with Onana's been in and out, and then Barkley. I think if he can play next to Kamara, I think we'll start seeing the best of Yuri Tielemans. But consistency wise, I mean, Luca Dean's been excellent. He's been excellent at left back, and when Ian Maatsen's come in, everyone thought, well, Maatsen will just be number one. He's attacking, he's young, he's fast, but Digne has been brilliant. He's got himself back into the French squad. He's played in the last international round, so he's been excellent. It's funny because none of the I'm not saying any of the attackers, which I should be saying Ollie Watkins, I should be saying Morgan Rogers, I should be saying Leon Bailey, but unfortunately,
he looks like he's not even trying to take on his man much at the minute.
I think that's been one of the kind of conundrums for Aston Villa supporters is what is happening with Leon Bailey. Like, I know he was playing with a bit of an injury towards the end of last season and kind of almost playing on one leg, and whether that's been a side effect of trying to, get him back into fitness this season, or whether it's been playing on his mind, or whether he's been, maybe some issues at home. I don't know. Like, it just seems like he's just not being himself. The last 2 or 3 games, we've started to see more of the old Leon Bailey coming back. Like against Juventus, he looked dangerous. He started to beat his man. He started to get on the shoulder and run. But one thing in his defence, as I said before, what I would say is you're asking wingers to beat 3 or 4 men, particularly against a Liverpool or a Tottenham, or they're just not going to do it. And they're only going to get the ball 7 or 8, 9, 10 times in the whole game away from home, particularly. And if you're asking them to beat 3 or 4 men, they're inevitably going to lose the ball. So he's had a tough time, but I'm hoping that we'll start to see the best of him. But a lot of Villa fans will say the fact that we haven't got Moussa Diaby maybe putting pressure on him could be could be another reason.
Diaby, did you? You just got rid of him and just did. Oh, you did actually with what's his name, Jaden.
Yeah. He's not really come in and done what he was expected of him. He's a young player. He had a brilliant season at Hull. Villa took the opportunity to sign him back when other clubs wanted him. But again, we just haven't. Every time he's come onto the pitch, he hasn't really done what he's meant to do in terms of beating his man or being a threat. He had a brilliant game against Bayern Munich, but that was because he was asked to do a defensive job. Yeah. So you want to see him the other end, and he's really looked like a 21-year-old playing in the Premier League, and that's
he's played it too safe. Every time I've caught him, I'm like, come on, do something, and it's just like a bit laxy-daisy. Then he'll just pop it backwards, and he's not really taking many risks. I feel like he needs someone to just say, look, listen, just do what you need to do. Just play your game.
Same with Bailey, and that's what we pay our money for. You've got so many players at Chelsea that you pay money to see at the moment, and yes, they're going to make mistakes. Yes, they're going to give the ball away, but you trade that in for when Cole Palmer smashes one in from 25 yards, or Neto goes past 2 men and puts it in the net, like, or Madueke. He can be a little bit erratic, but he's so exciting to watch. that's what you pay your money for, especially wingers as well. You're not expecting them to
Yeah.
beat the man every single time, but what you want to do is see them at least try, and that's what I think Villa have been a bit safe this season. That's what a lot of us we've been saying on the podcast. A lot of fans have been saying we've just been too safe. Now, whether it's because we really very nearly burnt out at the end of last season, and maybe he's thinking, yes, we can be steady now. If we can keep in touch, if we can be in the top 6, top 7 by February, then we'll have more energy, more kind of in the tank to go for it towards the end of the season. Because, frankly, we just crawled over the line last season, so that might be in his thinking.
Yeah, 100%, bro, 100%. And just on that as well, like looking at it from a Chelsea sort of point of view, who is it that you're looking at right now as the main sort of danger man? I know obviously you're probably gonna mention Palmer, but what 2 players would you say you're wary about?
Well, I mean, Nicholas Jackson always plays well against Villa. In that FA Cup game, he scored a great header. He was a threat in the draw. So I really like him, and I know Villa were interested in him when you got him. And I know he could have gone to Bournemouth in the January, but I know Villa were very interested in him because obviously the Unai Emery link. Yeah. So he really worries me. I think he's a very good player. Obvious one is Cole Palmer, but Neto, he is another one who always plays well against Villa, and obviously from his Wolves days, it's one it's a team that he likes to play against, and you guys pulled off a massive masterstroke signing him. If you can keep him fit, he's one of the best in the Premier League.
Oh, of course, 100%, bro. I think he starts for everyone in the league.
Yeah.
And apart from, I'll probably say maybe not Liverpool, because left wing. For me, he's better on the right. He can do a job on the left, but I just feel like he's a lot better on the right. When you see him, for example, like when he got moved to right wing against Arsenal in the second half, he looks like a completely different player, and he scored as well. You know what I'm saying, and obviously because he's left-footed, he can cut in on that side as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's been good. He's going to be back at the weekend as well because he picked up a knock. Last game he wasn't available against Leicester, but if you need Neto instead of the other players that you've got to go and beat a Leicester, you've got problems with your squad building. Do you know what I'm saying? But listen, with Palmer right now, I need him to turn up in this game because recently, we've had tougher fixtures and he hasn't been the best in those games, in all honesty. This season he's got the numbers. He's got some good numbers, but performance-wise, there's more to come. That's why I'm looking at it and thinking, we're third right now in the league and Palmer's not even firing really at the minute. Performance kind of dropped off. There's been a slight tweak with Maresca. He's moved him to the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side. He's taken them away from Madueke, which for me hasn't really helped Madueke as well. He's another one that needs a big game in this, Rich, man, because he gets in very, very good areas. He gets in the box a lot. He's actually got in the box the most times for us. But the issue with Madueke is his end product isn't the best.
Yeah.
And it's really starting to irritate me because he starts most of the games and then Maresca takes him off quite late in the game. So it's like whoever comes on hasn't really got much time to do anything on that side. They get like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. By then it's like there's not really much for him to do. Do you know what I mean? So if he's doing the same shit, because I do think he'll start. Sancho played very well the other day, but he played 90 minutes. I don't think he'll start. Neto just came back and Madueke seems to be in the 11 for the Prem as it is. So I see him starting. But again, if it's the same nonsense in the box, he needs to come off 60 minutes, 70th minute max. Give the next person half an hour, 25 minutes to at least cook. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want to be seeing, bro. But listen, let me bring up your lineup, the lineup that you think Emery is going to go with. Is this your lineup or what you think Emery's going to go with?
This is what I think Emery will go with. If obviously we mentioned Ezri Konsa there, he didn't mention him as being injured in the press conference, so I would assume that he's going to be back fit. So this is what I think Emery will play, and it's about what I would play. To be honest with you, there's maybe one alteration that if it was me picking it, that I would probably, if Onana was fit, I would try Kamara and Onana as the central midfield pairing, and then put Tielemans further forward instead of Morgan Rogers. I just feel like Morgan Rogers maybe needs a little bit of a rest. But I think Morgan Rogers will start. I think that's essentially what the team will be. He's mentioned Kamara as being key to his plans. He took him off with 20 minutes to go against Juventus to rest him up, I think, for this game on Sunday. And he's so important for us. He allows Cash to play better. He allows Leon Bailey to get a bit further forward. So,
He's solid. He's solid.
Yeah.
He's real still in your midfield, man. Definitely more of a defensive option than the Tielemans, I would say, in all honesty. With Rodgers, listen, we need to make sure that we're locking him up, man. Because if he scores, he's gonna try and run that one. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. It's his best mate. His best mate, and who owns the celebration? That'll be the argument again.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And listen, I don't want to be seeing Watkins scoring again, right? Because last year, remember he had a shot, Colwell got to it, and then the fucking second shot, through Sanchez's legs, right? Yeah. And I was even at the bridge because we was like, "Oh, Colwell, well done," and then he just bangs it in again. And to be honest, Sanchez should do better than that, man. He should have done better than that.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you about Sanchez and your. I mean, both teams do concede goals. And is the reason you guys concede goals because you're so attacking and because you're so free flowing, or is it down to the fact that the goalkeeper isn't necessarily the best?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, in all honesty. Like, start of the season, obviously, as you know, we brought in a new manager, so they had to sort of learn their positioning. That's something that we weren't really getting spot on at the beginning. Like, if you remember the game against Wolves, that was our second game, and it was a bit of ping pong. Do you know what I mean? Second half, it was a little bit more balanced because he changed a few things in midfield. But right now, it seems that we're conceding from silly mistakes. You know, Sanchez making, stupid errors. We're giving away penalties at the minute. I think we've given away the most penalties in the league so far. We're not really being cut through as much because, like I said, in terms of counter pressing, we do win the ball back quite well. The main issue that I've got, like I've said, is just the fact that we're making little mistakes at the back, like just lapses of concentration. We're not really, like last season, it was a bit different. It was time and time again, our midfield's being run through. But at the minute, as you know, Caicedo's been, for me, the best midfielder in the league. He's been very good. We'll go through the lineup in a second. I think Lavia and Caicedo have been a good pairing defensively. It hasn't really helped us to score goals because when you haven't got a player like an Enzo Fernandez playing, you're not progressing the ball as much. If that makes sense. Helped us defensively, but offensively, we haven't been scoring as much as what we were at the start of the season. Obviously, to be fair, we have had harder fixtures, but you can see there's been a change in the team. But like I said, defensively, it's just bozo moments I'm seeing at the minute mostly. You know what I mean? We're not really being cut through, like I've said. I'm not really seeing that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's understood. I mean, every team's going to concede goals, and there doesn't seem to be too many teams, keeping that many clean sheets. And when teams play like they do with regards to playing it around the back and popping it into midfield, there's going to be mistakes. And, not many teams sort of hit it into Rosette anymore, do they? So there's going to be Diego Carlos is a prime example of a player who's got those moments in him as well. So, if he plays, there's generally going to be a mistake from him as well, even though, there are numbers of games when he does play well. But I think if we have Ezri Konsa and Pau Torres at the back, I'll be much more calm about the situation.
Put it this way, I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. And a major reason why is because of Sanchez. Jorgensen, he had a very good game the other day. I've been begging for this guy to start for months because the irony of this is they scouted a keeper that can play exactly how Maresca wants him to in terms of being very comfortable in the ball, a good shot stopper, and, keeps the defenders at ease. Sanchez is a complete opposite of that, right? He's not good on the ball, very jittery. Every time I'm at games, I see many players shouting at him, right? You don't really see this on TV. Every single time, Rich, I'm at games, I see these lot shouting at him to tell him, yo, you need to fucking fix up, His shot stopping, again, is inconsistent as well. So I just don't understand why he's still in goal. And I'm praying that over this period, because there's a lot of games between now and Christmas, I'm hoping going into 2025, he would have got dropped. You know what I'm saying? Because he's just not good. It's third choice at Aston Villa, sorry, at Brighton. That's bad. That's bad, bro. But let's go through the lineup. Let me show you what I think Maresca's gonna go with for this game. Again, it's hard to predict these things in all honesty because we've just got so many players and there's so many ways of playing. You know what I mean? So this is what I've gone with. I think it's gonna go with Sanchez in goal. Gusto's back now, so I think he'll go back at right back. Fofana, Colwill, Cucurella. Let me bring it up a little bit more so you can see it. It's a little bit too far out. Cucurella left back, Caicedo, Lavia pivot. And I've gone with that pivot because I think it's probably going to want to make sure that we're not creating too many spaces in the midfield. If you're playing Enzo Fernandez in this game, off the ball, it might be a little bit too much for him because what Villa do, you create like a box midfield. Because like I said, winger tends to become an extra midfielder, right? So I think Caicedo and Lavia add a little bit of steel there. Palmer in the 10, of course. Madueke, I think, will start on the right, and I think Neto will start on the left, and then Jackson up top. And if you see how we play on the ball, if I show you our shape on the ball, right? Where is it here? So, okay, Chelsea. Right, let me just load this up again. Don't know why it's disappeared. Us on the ball, we tend to build with a 3 at the back, right? So this is us on the ball, right? So you have Fofana, he moves over to right centre back. Cole, central. Cucurella goes to left centre back, and then you tend to have Caicedo and Lavia in the pivot. Gusto has been playing in this position here in the right half space, which for me so far has not been working. He's been breaking down a lot of our attacks. This right hand side, in all honesty, Rich, has not been good. Madueke, away from moments and again away from Forest, offensively he has not been good enough. And then on this side, Palmer and Neto, and obviously Jackson up top. So listen, this is going to be again quite dangerous offensively, but we just need to make sure that our end product is good in this game, because our end product recently has not been good. Against Liverpool, it was shit. Against United, it was bad. Against Arsenal in parts, it was bad. So we need to be clinical in front of goal. That's what I was seeing at the beginning of the season. Against Brighton, Palmer was clinical. Against Wolves, we were very clinical. We scored 6 goals in that game. I want to be seeing that same sort of thing, because when Spurs played you and they battered you, they were very clinical, bro. I need to see.
Yeah. Well, the game was won and lost in the space of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Villa were 1-0 up at half time, and then yes, you take it 1-1. But I think Villa had an opportunity to go 2-1 up, and then Tottenham scored 2 quick goals. So yeah, it's going to be a game of real moments, I think. And like you said there, where you have on the ball those times where you try and overload the midfield and try and add a defender into that midfield area, Villa can maybe look to maybe exploit that with winning the ball, pinching the ball quickly, and then getting it to Morgan Rogers to drive with the ball through, or McGinn to drive with the ball through. Because one thing is, when those two are running with the ball, they're extremely difficult to stop.
Powerful,
and that's where Villa are trying to get their new style of play, is that strong running with the ball. So it's going to be really intriguing, and obviously you guys have got that pace out wide. So if you can isolate the likes of Matty Cash or Luca Dean, who is a very, very good defender, but obviously isn't the quickest, you can obviously get some joy down the flanks.
100%, bro. 100%. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, man. Are you gonna be at the game?
No, I'm not. I'm unfortunately not going to go. So I'll be watching it on the telly. What about you?
Potentially, I might be. I might be. I've got a game in the morning myself, and this game's at 1:30. So I don't think I'll be able to go from Essex all the way to like West London. I don't think I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'll have to see you on a day. But I've been to the past 2 games that we played at the Bridge, and I really want to go Villa Park as well. So I should be there this season. One of the stadiums I want to tick off, man.
Yes.
Rich. Predictions, bro, and goal scorers.
Well, I can't see Villa winning this game. I think you guys have got a very, very good team, and you're a totally different Chelsea to what's been over the last couple of seasons, and I think that's a team that's really geared up to potentially finish in that top 4. So the best I can hope for is a draw, I think, and I've stuck with 2-2, and I think Watkins and McGinn. I think the tried and trusted of Ollie Watkins and John McGinn will get the goals for us. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. But like you said, I think both teams will score goals. Both teams concede goals. So it's going to be an entertaining one.
100%, bro. 100%. I've actually gone 3-1 for this one. I'm going to say Cole Palmer, 2 goals for this one. And then let's see who else I can put in there. I'm going to say Jackson, actually. No, I'm going to say Jackson 2 goals. And I think Palmer will get at least 1. in the game. I need Palmer to turn up because I've actually captained him in my FPL as well.
Well, I was just about to say the silver lining would be if Jackson does get 2, I've got him in my FPL team. So yeah.
I've got both. I've got him, Palmer, and Madwakey because we've got a good run of fixtures coming up. So I've got all 3 of them in there. But yeah, we need to make sure we win, man, because honestly, this weekend, you know, there's been conversations about Chelsea potentially being in a title race. A lot of people are trying to knock us out of it. But for me, Rich, listen, I don't care about the outside noise. I want us to just focus on us, keep plugging away, winning our game silently, and just stay with the pack. And you never know what can happen, bro. You know what I mean? You never know what can happen.
Honestly, this December run of fixtures up to and after Christmas, there's so many games and there's going to be so many funny results. You know, Chelsea or Villa or whoever could end up beating one of the so-called big boys, but then losing or drawing against one of, you know, Southampton or someone like that. So there's going to be some crazy results. I can tell you that now, because it's so difficult to keep that consistency every 100%. Single game.
100%, bro. We beat you this weekend and Man City lose or even draw this weekend. We go above them. You know what I mean? I want to score a couple goals because right now, us and Arsenal have literally got the identical results. Like, we've got the same amount of wins, same amount of draws, same amount of losses, and also scored the same amount of goals as well, right? Defensively, I think they've only conceded 1 more goal than us. So that's where we're at the minute. But Rich, listen, appreciate you coming on. I know it was last minute, bro, but I really, really appreciate it. Let the people know where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you for having me on. Yes, we are Villa Park Podcast, so check us out on YouTube, and we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers, very close, so help us. You know, we love all supporters, so make sure you hit the subscribe button for us and help us on that milestone, and then follow us on all the socials at Villa Park Pod. So thanks very much, mate. Much appreciated.
100%, bro. I'll make sure that I put the YouTube in the description as well. But people, as always, make sure that you're subscribing. Like I keep saying, road to 10K. You know, we're nearly on 6K. So make sure that you lot keep subscribing, people. And love, man. Up the fucking Chels. Let's make sure we get this W.